Is it fair to say that the greatest fraud check of all time happened on Saturday when Andrew Tate lost to Chase Demore? He should have never taken this fight. If there was any sort of doubt about him winning, he should have never taken this fight. And now he's going online and he's doing the babyface thing of like, you have to live, and I'd rather try and fail. No, that's not who you are. Your persona has nothing to do with failure. Your persona is about winning. Your persona is about achieving wealth and success. Your persona is not about trying, and hey, if you don't succeed, you gave it the old college try. That is the antithesis of everything that you have spewed over the past 5 or so years. So miss me with the like, I'm proud of myself for trying, and I went in there against the champion who's really good. No, you didn't. You went in there and you looked awful and you failed. And so just be honest about that.
As far as his skill and ability, it underdelivered.
Did Tate look bad?
Yeah, he looked bad. He didn't look good. There's no way to say he looked good. He looked gassed after 3 rounds.
This wasn't just a loss. It was a public unraveling. For years, Andrew Tate built his entire persona around one idea. He never loses. He never breaks. And when everyone else collapses, he's the one who rises above it all. But one night shattered that image completely. Because when the fight ended, it wasn't his opponent that left people stunned. It was Andrew Tate himself. And what happened after the loss is where the real meltdown started. So stick around, because the truth behind this moment is darker, deeper, and way more revealing than anyone expected.
Yeah, obviously I didn't get the result I wanted, but truthfully the result I wanted was to see if I could still do it. But I didn't quit, never give up, never retreat, never surrender, fight to the end, go out on your shield. Time is the fire in which we all burn. But I gave it my absolute all, and I have nothing but respect for Chase. I have no excuses. He was the man who won. He deserves this victory. Truthfully, completely, and honestly, I'm actually very proud of him. And I'm glad to know that Misfits have a true champion, because he is a true champion. So I'm not disappointed in myself. I don't operate from that frame. The only way I would be disappointed in myself is if I was too scared to fight at all. And everyone said, Andrew, you're 40 years old. You just got out of jail. You've been through so much. You have so many problems. There's so much going on. Why would you do this? Why would you risk it all? Why would you get in there? And I felt a tinge of fear for the first time in my life. And that's when I knew I had to fight. Because the second I felt afraid, I knew I had to fight. I can't live doubting myself. Seeds of doubt grow into forests of inaction. I don't operate that way. If Chase and I had to fight again tomorrow, I'd go tomorrow still with 100% belief in myself, even though I know he just beat me. That's who I am. The second I knew that, I was worried about it, I knew I had to do it. And I'm not afraid to lose. I'm afraid to not try.
I don't even know. I've not yet had time to process why he beat me. I got tired after the second round, and I don't know why. The first and second round, he couldn't touch me. If I didn't get tired, I would have won.
This fight wasn't optional. It was necessary. For Tate, this had nothing to do with boxing. It was about taking back control, taking back dominance, taking back an image that had been slipping for years. The setup was simple. Former world-class striker, years of training, going up against a reality TV personality with limited experience. On paper, this was supposed to be easy. The odds reflected it. Almost everyone expected a clean win, a quick finish, a statement performance. And that's exactly why it mattered so much. A win would have reset everything. More fights, bigger names, a return to the spotlight. But from the moment the bell rang, something felt wrong. His movement slowed early. His breathing changed. And by the third round, he wasn't pressing forward anymore. He was just trying to survive. That was the moment people started to realize this comeback wasn't going according to plan. And somehow, that still wasn't the worst part. Because what Tate said after the fight is where everything truly began to unravel.
If I want to get spiritual about all of this, you have to understand that there are forces larger than us people. And I said that the answer was already written. Why did I get tired? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that I was not supposed to win. Why was I not supposed to win? Is the world a better place now that I've lost? Maybe the win means more to Chase than it would have meant to me. Maybe Chase couldn't handle the loss. Maybe God decided, you know what, Chase has been through enough with mocking and things on the internet. Chase doesn't need the loss right now. Andrew can handle the loss better. Maybe God decided. Maybe if I won, we would have went out and celebrated that night, and Tristan would have smoked a bunch of cigars, and maybe he would have died 1 minute earlier. And maybe I get an extra minute with my brother because I lost. And if that's the case, then I'm glad I lost.
This is where everything changed. Not in the ring, but in his head. Because losing was never supposed to be part of the plan. And when it happened, there was no script for it. At first, he tried to keep it together. He praised his opponent, said the right things, sounded calm and composed, but the cracks were already showing. You could hear it in his voice, the pauses, the silences, the sentences that didn't quite land. Then came the explanation. I got tired, not injured, not outmatched, just tired. And that answer didn't sit right with anyone. This is the same man who built his entire brand on discipline, on conditioning, on being untouchable. Yet by the third round, he was completely gassed, hands dropping, footwork gone. The commentators didn't hold back. They questioned his preparation. They questioned his level. Some even called it a reality check. And just like that, the narrative flipped. This wasn't a dominant striker having an off night anymore. This looked like someone getting exposed under real pressure. But here's the key part. Instead of owning it, instead of saying, I wasn't ready, he hesitated. And in that hesitation, the persona started to crack. Because once the excuses begin, there's no stopping what comes next. And what he said after that would shock even his most loyal supporters.
You have to have faith in a higher power. There's a lesson in all of this. And I don't need to know exactly what it is. If God decides that for some reason he's going to instantly gas me when I was in perfect physical condition so that I lose, then I have to accept God's decision. And I'll take the punches in the face like a man. And I'm not going to bitch, I'm not going to complain, and I'm not going to cry. I'm going to take it. God decided on that day that that's what has to happen to me, so I did it. If you're going to go through life without understanding that there's a grander plan, a plan that's bigger than just you and your ego. The plan is bigger than just us and our egos, guys. The plan is bigger than just, I want to win, so I have to have what I want like a spoiled child. And what God decides and what's good for the universe and what's good for people to learn from and what's good for the general karmic retributions of the planet. Fuck all that. I want to win so that no one on the internet laughs at me.
This is where the story really turns. Not in the ring, but in his mind. Because losing was never part of the plan. And when it happened, there was no script for it. At first, he held it together. He showed respect, said the right things, sounded calm. But the cracks were already there. The pauses, the hesitation, the sentences that didn't quite land. Then the explanations started. Age, ring rust, timing, the opponent leaning too much. Notice the pattern. Everything was mentioned, except the one thing that actually matters, preparation. Which is strange, coming from Andrew Tate, the man who built an empire on accountability, the man who mocked failure and said losers always blame something else. Now suddenly, nothing was his fault. He claimed he trained perfectly, said his body was in peak condition, that he did everything right. But if that's true, why was he gassed by round 3? That contradiction just hung there, unanswered, uncomfortable, and the internet noticed. Clips spread, old quotes resurfaced. The contrast was brutal. The man who once said, "What do you call someone who loses? A loser," was now explaining why losing didn't really matter. But this is where it gets darker. Instead of stopping, he went further. He didn't just explain the loss, he redefined it. And that's when this stopped being about boxing. Because suddenly, it wasn't physical anymore. It was cosmic, God, fate, the universe. He started talking about destiny, about God's plan, about how some losses are meant to happen, not because you failed, but because the universe decided it. Think about that. This is the same man who said discipline controls everything, that effort separates winners from losers. Now discipline didn't matter. Losing wasn't failure anymore. It was sacrifice. And that's when people leaned in. Because this didn't sound like confidence or reflection. It sounded like someone trying to survive a broken identity. The top G persona never talked like this. It never accepted weakness. It never praised losing. But now, he wasn't angry. He wasn't mocking. He sounded tired. And that's when fans started asking the real question. If the universe decides who wins, what happens to the man who said he controls everything? Because once you give power away like that, you don't get it back. Then came the biggest shift. Money. He reminded everyone he was still rich, that the loss didn't matter. But listen carefully. For years, winning was everything. Dominance mattered. Legacy mattered. Now suddenly, none of it did. That's when people realized the contradiction. When he wins, it's superiority. When he loses, it's irrelevant. When he dominates, it's discipline. When he fails, it's fate. That's not confidence. That's coping. And the worst part? The criticism didn't just come from haters anymore. It came from his own supporters. People started asking real questions. If he trained perfectly, why was his cardio gone? If discipline is everything, why do the same rumors keep surfacing? The shield cracked. Old stories were questioned. Old championships re-examined. The The myth started to wobble. This wasn't a bad night anymore. It was a credibility collapse. And you could hear it in his voice afterward. Not rage, not fire, just exhaustion. This wasn't a meltdown because he lost a fight. It was a meltdown because the character he built might not protect him anymore. This was never about boxing. It was about identity. Because when everything is built on winning, losing doesn't just hurt, it exposes. For years, Andrew Tate sold certainty, control, the idea that effort guarantees results. This moment shattered that illusion, not because he lost, but because he couldn't explain the loss without rewriting his own rules. So here's the real question. Was this just one bad night, or was this the moment the persona finally cracked? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe, because stories like this are never as simple as they look.